Happy Earned Income Tax Credit Awareness Day. This is the 51st anniversary of the EITC. I'm Kathy Hoover from Legal Aid of Southeast and Central Ohio, and I'm here with Simon Johnson, Paul Rando, Nick Keir, and Megan Sullivan, all legal aid attorneys from around Ohio, who are going to help us understand everything we need to know about the Earned Income Tax Credit, who it's for, how to claim it, how to get help filing your taxes, and more. We will talk about the child tax credit and the differences between the two as well. Feel free to leave a comment or a question, and we will answer what we can. We will also post links in the comments to the sites that we mentioned. Please keep in mind that the amounts are specific to tax year 2025 for returns filed in 2026, and these amounts can change from year to year. Let's start off with who should know about the Earned Income Tax Credit. Simon, who is it for?
Well, the Earned Income Tax Credit is for working people with low to moderate earned income. Earned income includes wages and self-employment income, but does not include Social Security income or unemployment compensation. Whether you have children or no children, whether you are single or married, if you work to earn your income and that income is below a certain level, and you meet a few other qualifying factors, the government may give you extra money back when you file your taxes.
What do you mean by extra money back?
Good question. I say extra money back because the Earned Income Tax Credit is a refundable tax credit. Now, let me give you a very simple example of how a refundable tax credit works. Let's say you are eligible for a $2,500 earned income tax credit, and your tax return shows that your tax amount is $200 in tax. The government will take your $200 tax amount out of the $2,500 earned income tax credit and give you what's left as your refund. In this simple example, that means the government would issue you $2,300 when you file your taxes.
Wow, $2,300 is a decent amount of money. I can see how that would be really helpful to a lot of people to cover things like utilities, groceries, and even paying off a loan.
Absolutely, Kathy. It can really make a big difference for an individual or family.
Great. So, Paul, now that we know why the Earned Tax Credit is so important, can you tell us more about who qualifies?
Sure, but before I start, let me just say that a lot of times the Earned Income Tax Credit is called EITC or just EIC. So if you hear or see EITC or EIC somewhere, they're talking about the Earned Income Tax Credit. Today, we'll just call it the EITC. Okay, so as Simon said, the EITC is for people who work to earn income, and that income is below a certain level. Before we get into the different income levels allowed for different types of households, let me just go over the other things that qualify you for the EITC. To get the EITC this filing season, you must have a valid Social Security number issued before the due date of the return. You must be a U.S. citizen or a U.S. resident. You must have less than $11,950 in investment income during 2025. You must not have foreign earned income during 2025. And when you file your taxes, generally you cannot use the married filing separately status. However, if you do use married filing separate, there is an exception to this rule, which we'll get into later when we go over some of the special circumstances.
So to qualify for the EITC, you must have a Social Security number that was issued before the due date of the return, be a U.S. citizen or resident, and you must not have earned income from another country.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Okay, so now that we understand those requirements, can you talk to us about the income requirements for the Earned Income Tax Credit? How much money could someone who qualifies for the EITC make for tax year 2025?
Yeah, let's get into income limits. This is where we have to start talking about different kinds of households. And in order to know what kind of household you have to know whether or not you have what's called a qualifying child.
Okay, so does it make sense to make sure everyone understands who counts as a qualifying child for the EITC first?
Yes, it does. Now, remember, you don't have to have a child to qualify for the EITC, but whether or not you have a qualifying child affects your income limit. So who counts as a qualifying child for the EITC? To be a qualifying child for the EITC, a child in your household must meet all four of these tests. The first test is age. If your child was permanently and totally disabled at any time during the year, their age doesn't matter. They can be a qualifying child at any age. Otherwise, your child might be either under age 19 at the end of the tax year, in this case 2025, or if your child was a full-time student for at least 5 months of the year, they must be under age 24. The second test has to do with your relationship to the child. In order to be a qualifying child for the EITC, your child must be your legal child, which includes adopted children, stepchildren, and foster children. Or the child must be your sibling, half-sibling, step-sibling, grandchild, niece, or nephew. The third test is about where the child lives. In order to qualify for the EITC, your child must have lived with you for at more than half. Your child must have lived with you for at least half of the year. There is no wiggle room around this. EITC credits can be denied based on the difference of a single day. And then the fourth test, which is about your child's own tax filing status. Your child won't qualify as part of your household for the EITC if they have filed a joint return with another person. For example, if your child is a full-time college student who is married and who lives with you, you could not count them as a qualifying child if they file a joint tax return with their spouse, unless the joint tax return was filed only to claim a refund of withheld taxes.
Okay, so just to make sure I got that, the four tests for a qualifying child are the child's age, your relationship to that child, who the child lives with for more than half the year, and whether or not the child filed a joint tax return with another person, except for that exception that you mentioned. Is that right?
Yep, you got it.
Okay, great. I think we know enough about qualifying children now to be able to determine what kind of household we are according to the Earned Income Tax Credit. Megan, can you tell us about the income limits for different types of households?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, let's start with households that have at least one qualifying child. If you are a one-adult household with one qualifying child, your income must be less than $50,434 during 2025 to qualify for the EITC. If you are a married couple filing jointly and you have one qualifying child, your income must be less than $57,544 during 2025 to qualify. The income maximum goes up a little bit with two qualifying children and a bit more with three or more qualifying children.
Okay, so for 2025, income is less than $50,434 for a single person with one child and less than $57,544 for a married couple with a child.
Yes, that's right. Now let's talk about households with no qualifying children. If you're an individual without a qualifying child, your income must be less than $19,104 in 2025 to qualify for the EITC. If you are a married couple filing jointly without a qualifying child, your income must be less than $26,214 in 2025 to qualify. Married couples must be filing jointly to claim this credit without a qualifying child. It is not available to married individuals filing separately.
Got it. So income is less than $19,104 for a single person with no children and less than $26,214 for a married couple with no children.
Yes, that's right. And it's important to know that for people with no qualifying children, there are a couple of other rules as well. In order to qualify for the EITC without a qualifying child, you must have lived in the United States for more than half of the year. You must not be claimed as a qualifying child on anyone else's tax return. And you must be at least 25 years old and under age 65 at the end of 2025, unless an exception applies. If you are married and filing a joint return, only one spouse must meet this age rule.
So people without children who are older than 65 or younger than 25 do not qualify for the EITC.
Yes, that's right.
But earlier someone mentioned grandchildren. Does that mean that a grandparent who is over 65 and raising their child could qualify for the EITC?
Right. The age rule is only for taxpayers without qualifying children. So, for example, if you are a parent who is younger than 25, you could qualify for the Earned Income Tax Credit if you meet all the other factors, like having a Social Security number and earning below a certain income. And the same is true for a grandparent over 65 who is raising their grandchild.
Okay, got it. Simon, it sounds like we may be getting into some of those special circumstances that you mentioned. What are some other special circumstances we should know about?
Well, let's start with the married filing separately tax status. If you use the married filing separately tax status in order to qualify for the EITC, you must have lived apart from your spouse for the last 6 months of 2025 to qualify for the EITC. If you are married but legally separated from your spouse, the IRS will treat you as unmarried. Legally separated means that you and your spouse are formally separated under your state law with a court decree as of December 31st of the tax year. Legally separated does not mean that you are separated informally or just by agreement or just living apart or being in the process of divorce. Legally separated spouses can use either single or head of household filing status, but not any married filing status.
So if you're married and filing separate tax returns, the EITC rules are different depending on whether you lived apart for the last half of the year. And legally separated spouses are considered to be unmarried under IRS rules.
Yes, that's right.
Got it. So, Paul, what's next?
Well, there are times when two or more taxpayers may each meet the requirements to claim the same child for the EITC. So you can imagine things get a little complicated. For the most part, it's up to those two taxpayers to decide between themselves who will claim the child. But when two taxpayers try to claim the same child, then the IRS will look to tiebreaker rules to determine who gets to claim the credit. If two people are married and filing jointly, and they're both legal parents of the child, then they can claim the child together on their joint tax return. But in all other cases, only one person can claim a child for the EITC. So we use the following tiebreaker rules to decide who can claim the child. Remember, this is between two people who meet all the other factors that we've already discussed. If only one person is the child's legal parent, that parent may claim the child. If the child has two legal parents who file separate tax returns, the parent that the child lived with longer during that year may claim the child. If the child lived with the two parents for the same amount of time, the parent with the higher reported income may claim the child. If neither person who could claim the child is the child's legal parent, then the person who had the highest reported income for the year can claim the child. For example, if a child lived all year with both his grandmother, who had an income of $45,000, and an aunt who had an income of $35,000, the grandmother would claim the qualifying child.
Okay, so after you go through all these rules, if it turns out that someone else gets to claim your child for the earned income tax credit, you might still be able to get qualified for the EITC without a child. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. If it turns out you don't have a qualifying child you can claim, go back and check if you meet the income guidelines for an adult without children.
Great. So this is a lot to sort through. Paul, is there anywhere I can go to just see if I qualify for the EITC?
You bet there is. The IRS has an EITC assistant online that you can use to check and see if you qualify for the credit. If you go to irs.gov/EITC assistant, it will guide you through the process of determining whether you qualify. However, if you think the answer it gives you isn't right, just run this by a qualified and trained tax preparer.
All right. So earlier on, we said that we would talk about the child tax credit as well. Who is the child tax credit for?
The child tax credit is for taxpayers who have a qualifying child or children. Many taxpayers are eligible to claim this credit. In order to claim the child tax credit, you must have more than $2,500 in earnings during the tax year, in this case 2025, but less than $200,000 or $400,000 if you're married filing jointly. You and your spouse, if you're filing jointly, have to have valid Social Security numbers. And you must have a qualifying child who also has a valid Social Security number. Please note that this is a change for 2025. Before 2025, people with ITINs, or individual taxpayer ID numbers, were eligible for this credit, but that is no longer the case as of this tax filing season.
Okay, so if you make more than $2,500 and less than either $200,000 or $400,000, depending on your status, and you have a child, you'll probably be able to claim the child tax credit.
Yes,
right?
That's right.
Excellent. So Nick, is the child tax credit refundable like the earned income tax credit?
Yes, partly. The refundability works slightly different. The child tax credit can now be up to $2,200 per child, but only $1,700 per child is refundable.
Okay, so you might have to break that down just a little bit more.
No problem. The child tax credit gives you $2,200 off your taxes per child. So if your tax amount is $5,000 and you have one child, then you would take $2,200 off of your tax amount bringing you down to $2,800. If your child tax credit is more than your tax amount, you can get up to $1,700 per child back in your tax refund.
What do you mean up to 1,700? Does that not mean everybody gets the full amount?
That's right. The amount of the refundable portion is based on a calculation. It is 15% of your earned income that is more than $2,500, but it won't be more than $1,700 total. So if your income was $12,500 and you did not owe other tax, the refundable portion of the child tax credit would be $1,500. Here's how we calculate that. We take your $12,500 income, subtract $2,500, and get $10,000, which is, or 15% of $10,000 is the $1,500 refund. If your income for the year was $14,500, the refundable portion of the child tax credit would be $1,700. That's $14,500 minus $2,500, which is $12,000. 15% of $12,000 is $1,800, but the refundable portion is capped at $1,700.
Okay, got it. So $2,200 off per child of your tax amount. And if your tax amount is less than your child tax credit amount, you'll get up to $1,700 back per child, depending on your income. Is that right, Megan?
That's right, Kathy.
So we've just been saying children, but I assume we are talking about qualifying children again. Is that right, Megan?
Yes, but the rules for qualifying children are slightly different for the child tax credit than they are for the earned income tax credit. To qualify for the child tax credit, your child must be your legal child, including adopted children, grandchild, or stepchild. Or they could be your younger sibling, step-sibling, half-sibling, or descendant, like a niece or nephew. Or they could be a foster child placed in your care by a government agency. Also, your child must have been less than 17 years old on December 31st, 2025. Your child must have a valid Social Security number. And your child must have either lived with you for more than half the year, or if your child lived with their other parent for more than half the year, that parent must have signed a form allowing you to claim the child tax credit for that child.
Okay, so we've talked about the child tax credit and the earned income tax credit. What happens if I qualify for both? Do I have to choose?
No, if you qualify for both the child tax credit and the earned income tax credit, you can get them both.
Great. So now I know what tax credits I qualify for. Simon, when should I expect to get my tax refund and how does it get to me?
Well, in past years, when you filed your taxes, you got to choose how you wanted your refund to come to you, either direct deposit or by check. Direct deposit is the fastest way to get your refund. If you file your taxes online and you choose direct deposit, assuming the IRS finds no problems with your tax return, you can expect to get your EITC or child tax credit refund on or after March 3rd.
So what happens if I don't choose direct deposit?
So new in 2025, the government is discouraging paper checks. If you don't put your direct deposit bank information on your return, the IRS will send you a letter requesting that you call them with banking information. If you do not respond within 30 days, the IRS will issue you a paper check 6 to 8 weeks after the 30-day deadline.
Okay. So Paul, once I file my taxes, is there a way to check if my refund's coming or when it's coming?
Yes, the IRS recommends checking their Where's My Refund tool to find out the day you can expect your refund. You can find that tool at irs.gov/refund.
Awesome. Is there anything else I should know about refunds this year?
Sure. Some government debts are collected through tax refunds. If you're not sure whether this could happen to you, you should call 1-800-304-3107 to check. That's 1-800-304-3107. This automated line will tell you if you have debts that can take your tax refund, such as past due child support, overpaid benefits, student loans, and state tax debts. It's a good idea for everyone to call and double check so that they're not surprised if their refund gets taken. You can call this number nearly any time of the day. Now, if your refund is at risk, you can hold off on filing your taxes while you work on getting your your non-tax debts back in good standing with the agency to whom you owe. Just make sure you still file your federal taxes within 3 years of when the return is due.
Great. So we've been talking about tax year 2025, but what if I haven't filed my previous tax years? Or what if I did file my taxes, but I didn't know that I could have gotten money back for the earned income tax credit or the child tax credit? Is there still a way for me to get a refund in those years, Nick?
Great question. You still have time. You get 3 years from the filing due date for each year to file your tax return and claim a refund. You also have 3 years to file an amended return. If you realize there's something you need to change, like claiming the EITC, so that means the last day to file a 2022 return and still get a refund is April 15th, 2026. And there's still time to get a refund for 2023 and 2024 as well.
Wow, so you've covered a lot here. Do I have to do all of this myself, or is there any way I can find free tax filing resources?
There are several free tax preparation options for people who make below a certain income limit. The income limit generally is the maximum amount for joint filers with 3 or more children and still qualifies for the EITC. So for 2025, the income limit is $68,675. In many counties, you can call 211 to schedule an appointment with or get information about a free tax preparation site. If your county does not have a 211 service, ask your local United Way or Community Action Agency if they're offering free tax prep services. People who qualify for the IRS Volunteer Income Tax Assistance, or VITA, can find free tax prep help at irs.gov/VITA. That's VITA. You can also look for free tax preparation help through the AARP Tax Aid at taxaid.aarpfoundation.org to search for a tax prep site.
There are also online options for help, including getyourrefund.org/UWCO. This website is staffed by trained volunteers who can help you prepare your returns and communicate with you by phone, email, and text. That website opens on January 31st. If you'd rather prepare your own taxes using guided software, you can visit myfreetaxes.com or visit irs.gov and follow the link to explore free filing options. The direct link is https://apps.irs.gov/app/free file. That just rolls off the tongue. The IRS's free file site went live on January 13th and is ready for taxpayers to use. To be eligible for IRS free file, taxpayers must make $89,000 or less, and each vendor may have other requirements, so read carefully to determine which one is best for your tax situation.
Well, thank you all for the great information. If there's any questions out there, please leave them in the comments below, and we'll be happy to answer what we can. On behalf of legal aids across the state of Ohio, we thank you all for joining us today to celebrate the 51st anniversary of the EITC.